whamaaloma whawhatai a te oi e la ko whamawhetalainga le whawalii, Dr. Dion. Kia orana koutou katoa toa, taloha ni malo ni, whakalawhalahi atu ki amatolu osi malo e li leisio to ofa. Ni sambula vinaka, whakatalo whatu, kamna bene ni meauri, no ia e Māori, halo o la keta. O te whaatalo whaatu i le outou sāma whai ngā, me le outou pa ia lasi, auli manuia. Tēnā koutou katoa, te ahi waru, te akitai me te waiohua, te manawhenua o tēnei rohe. Tēnā koutou ngā iwi take o tēnei motu, tēnā tātou katoa e te whare. A ko toku ingo ko Tuiloma Lina Samu, he honore ki a hau, me te kōrero atu ki a koutou i tēnei a iai. I'm going to start my presentation with you today, everybody, by sharing what our sisters from Te Ahi Waru shared with us this morning. Now, because they are Tainui Waikato, their tradition is not to use macrons. They use what's called the double vowel system, and here it is. He kakanoa hau I ruia mai I rangi ātea, e kore au e ngaro. Because I am a seed that was propagated, that was grown, that is cultivated, and that is generated in rangi ātea. Many of you might know that rangi ātea is another name for Hawaii. For us as Pacific peoples, because this is one of the oldest whakatauaki, the ancestors created this whakatauaki when they were still Pacific Islands people. So it is really dear to Pacific peoples because it means that no matter how far the generations are, that we are separated from our ancestral lands, because we are the descendants of our ancestors, that we will never be lost, that we are always grounded. And so this is another ancestral saying. It is a saying from Samoa. It says, "O le ala I le pule o le Tautua." And what this tells me as a descendant of my ancestors is that the way for me to become a leader is through my genuine and willing service and wanting to serve others. And this presentation is about Pacific people's leadership through rainbow rights. Who are and where are the Pacific leaders who will stand up and fight for us? This is a question that was posed in 2018 by this couple, husband and husband, Tanu Ngango, arts activists with Pati Turo. Because unfortunately, this egg, I don't show its picture, but when I realized when this couple asked, where are the leaders who are going to stand up for us? And I said to myself, yeah, where are these mofos who are going to stand up for us as the queer community in the Pacific Nation? And then I realized, oh, that mofo was me. And this is what I learned from that experience of answering this egg's consistent attacks to us as queer people in the Pacific Nations, is that we must never allow any attacks to go unresponded to and to never go unanswered nor unchallenged. It's so important for us to remember that, because it is very scary and that we can't allow bigotry to go unanswered and unchallenged, especially within our own Pasifika communities. But what we can do is what we've learned from our parents and our grandparents and our ancestors is to respond with graciousness, with dignity, but without apology. And we have to do this because queer Pacific people's lives are on the line. They are at risk. I was 1 year into being the Pasifika advisor at Te Kāhui Tuka Tangata, the Human Rights Commission at the time. And I had to weigh out speaking up in public, in a very public, international and local setting, in the press, and to be able to weigh up the personal consequences. I could be excommunicated from the church that I grew up with, but in my mind, is there any little children in here? No anymore. And I thought, wow, fuck that. If they're not going to accept me in their church, then they're actually not worthy of me. Also, the banishment that I could face from my ancestral village and having my swafa matai, my chieftain title, taken away from me. And at the time I was only one of two matai of 300 men. So it was very important, to be a woman holding this swafa matai, this great honour from my grandfather's village. And also, what was really forefront of my mind, I had been around a long time in the public service and around non-government organisations. And by opening yourself up and making it clear to the world that you are a queer woman, you are a queer Samoan woman, that you are a bisexual woman, that this could open you up to accusations of inappropriate behaviour, and especially about sexual misconduct. And there's also the physical danger too, in terms of there are still sections in our communities all over the world where men and women think it's all right for men to rape lesbian and bisexual women straight. And so it's one of the reasons why I never go away from towns when I visit the Pacific Islands to go into rural areas by myself. I never do it because I know that's a personal risk to myself. And it baffles me continuously. 90% of our people say that they are Christian, but God, there's a whole lot of unchristian behaviour going on amongst them. Focusing on positive things, I want to acknowledge my colleagues who are here. I'm at the Ministry for Pacific Peoples, a Te Manatu mō ngā iwi o te moana nui a Kiwa today. I want to acknowledge Lou Avia, our Chief Advisor to our Secretary. I want to acknowledge Charles Lamotia, who came up with this beautiful symbol for Akirata O, which is Te Reo Māori Koki Airani, a new dawn for us. Also, we have here Ivana Tiata Benita, who was at the Human Rights Commission, seconded for a bit. We also have here Nelson Tiatia, who's going into a new role as Private Secretary once our Minister is in place. And we have Robert Wainwright, who's here, and also my colleague who's the youth lead, Malaya Evile. Please, colleagues, can you stand up? Can you stand up? Yeah. Thanks so much. Thank you. I want to acknowledge Lou, because without her leadership, we would never have had a Rainbow Network in the Ministry for Pacific People. When I went there first in 2020, and then the leaders said to me, "Oh, Tuiloms, we need to have a Rainbow Network." I said, no way. They said, "What do you mean? We need to tick a box to say that we're diversity inclusive." I said, no way. I said, unless you have any kind of true commitment to uplifting our rainbow communities, I'm never ever going to support it. So I'm really glad, that we were able to launch our Akirata O on the 11th of October, because without this Rainbow Network, we can't show that our communities that we are genuinely committed to ensure the safety and the support of queer people of the Pacific nations. So here's a great cake, I wanted to show this. Happy Coming Out Day, MPP. Everybody knows queer people, we're great for a party, right? But let's see how everybody reacts when shit hits the fan. When SHIT hits the fan. I saw the child there, sorry, child. Well, because, in my new role, I've got the great privilege of recruiting now the first ever government Pacific Peoples Rainbow Plus lead. That is a huge honour for me, and it's a huge honour. Without our Rainbow Network, Akirata O being in place, we could never have this position. And this position means so much, because this is the start. When Tane started in 2017, he and I started together in the Human Rights Commission, and look what's happened for Sejisa community and Takatapui because of that position, and that's the same thing that's going to happen at the Ministry of Pacific Peoples as well, no matter what government comes in place. And I too want to acknowledge the launch of the Manalangi project. Please, there it is. And Still ta'awhili Dr. Patrick and your team, well done. Congratulations, whaamalo your favour. Those of you who are in Wellington this Friday, we have the world-renowned artist and activist Yuki Kihara. She's going to be hosted at the Ministry of Pacific Peoples, our head office, from 5:30 to 8 p.m. It's a free event with drinks and nibbles. If you are in Wellington and you want to attend over the next 2 days, today and tomorrow, please come and see me, and I'll make sure that you are registered to attend that free event. Had a really great thing happen this year in our ainga. My brother Harold Samu, who's known as Birth of the Beast, actual drag name, was memorialised for all of his or her activist work as birther. So Yuki Kihara created this series of dolls. They're not just pretty dolls to look at. They are dolls that were brought over a series of 30 years by Yuki, and they were those racialised dolls, kind of like Manu in play school. But you know, the Tahitian woman, the Wahine Maori woman, so on and so forth. And those costumes are not just pretty costumes, but those are costumes that Bertha has worn for 40 years, walking in marches about HIV, AIDS, and the need for intensified research, walking for the homosexual law reform bill, walking for many other trans, bisexual, and gay, queer human rights, and whawhawhinge whawhatama human rights. So there's Bertha with Yuki Kihara there on her left, and with Professor Natalie King on her right at the launch of this show, and there we are. So for many of us, we know, if you're a queer person, you are very blessed and you are very lucky if you have your ainga to support you. My brother was very, very lucky, but honestly, if my parents had known about conversion therapy, I'm sure they would have tried to send my brother there, unfortunately. As it is, they led the way for this Māngere community to get as many signatures as possible, including the non-consent of minors like myself to sign against the homosexual law reform bill. That work was done between 84 and 85. I refused to sign it because I knew that I was queer leaning and that my brother was gay. Father gave me a hiding, still didn't listen. Mother gave me a hiding. My two sisters said, God, just like, keep the peace, just sign it. Okay, I signed it. And what made me happy is that I signed it with F-U-C-K off. Yeah, good. But what it taught me is that because my parents did this and made this decision for our family, that I was never ever going to allow anybody ever to force me into a decision that I was not in full agreement with. And for me, that's very important in every aspect of work that I do. So I wanted to bring up the tuinga Harold Bertha made with my daughter and our nieces and nephews, this tuinga. This tuinga is a headdress. It's ancestrally, nowadays it's seen as a woman's art, but ancestrally, from the time that it was created about 3,000 years ago, it was a men's art. It's oloa. But because it was deemed as feminine by the colonizers, that's why it became a woman's art. Same as the poi for Tiwi Māori as well. So again, we have a saying. I wanted to close with a saying that Samoans have. It says, "E le se mea e sili I lo ainga." So nothing takes priority and precedence over your blood ainga. And my brother's very lucky. I'm very lucky because our ainga has unconditional love and unconditional support. But we know as queer people, that is not the case for everybody. So for us, the ainga, the whānau that you can create of siblings, of sisters and brothers who unconditionally love you, That's what takes precedence and priority for us as queer people. Ngā mihi atu kia koutou, kia ora.